Welcome back, my dear coin collectors and everyone, to another thrilling and mind-blowing story from the world of rare and valuable coins, where even the smallest piece of change can turn into a life-changing treasure. Today's story is about one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins ever to capture the imagination of collectors around the world, the 1968 Liberty Dime from the United States. On the surface, it's just a small silver-colored coin worth 10 cents, something millions of people have handled without ever giving it a second thought. But beneath that familiar design lies a legend, a rare 1968 Liberty Dime with errors so unique and extraordinary that it has been valued at an unbelievable $203 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, a single 10-cent coin, struck over 50 years ago, worth hundreds of millions of dollars because of a few imperfections and rare minting mistakes that transformed it into one of the most valuable coins ever known. Imagine the feeling of finding such a coin in your old drawer, an old wallet, or a forgotten piggy bank. It looks like any other dime at first glance, small and light, with the image of Franklin D. Roosevelt on one side and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the other. But a closer look, maybe under the light or through a magnifying glass, reveals something different: a faint doubling in the letters, a misplaced mint mark, or a strange off-metal color that shouldn't be there. Suddenly, that ordinary dime isn't ordinary anymore. It's a piece of history, an accident of minting perfection, a one-in-a-billion creation that could make someone an instant millionaire. That's the wonder of the 1968 Liberty Dime and the world of rare coins. The 1968 dime belongs to the long-running Roosevelt Dime series, which began in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt after his passing. Designed by John R. Sinek, the coin features Roosevelt's dignified profile on the obverse with the inscriptions "Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust," and the date, along with the mint mark placed just beside the neck. The reverse side shows the iconic torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing freedom, peace, and strength, a design that has become one of the most recognized in American coinage. Now, the 1968 dimes were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with mint marks D and S used to distinguish the latter two. It was also a period of great transition for the U.S. Mint. The country had recently shifted away from using silver in its dimes and quarters. Starting in 1965, these coins were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of 90% silver. This was a huge change, and as with any major transition in materials and minting processes, it opened the door to all kinds of fascinating and valuable errors. Among the billions of dimes produced that year, a few were struck under extraordinary and unrepeatable conditions. These are the coins that collectors dream of finding, the ones with minting mistakes so rare they become priceless. The 1968 Liberty Dime, worth $203 million, is said to be one of these once-in-a-lifetime errors. To understand why it's so valuable, we have to dive deep into what could make such a coin so special and different from every other dime minted that year. One of the most important types of errors that can make a coin incredibly valuable is the doubled die. This occurs during the process of hubbing, when the design is impressed onto the die that will strike the coins. If the die receives 2 slightly misaligned impressions, the result is a doubled image that shows up on every coin made from that die. On the 1968 Liberty Dime, there are reports of a remarkable doubled die obverse where the doubling is clearly visible on the letters of Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and even in the date itself. The doubled effect creates a ghostly shadow or a second image that's slightly offset from the original. To the untrained eye, it might look like a trick of the light, but under magnification, it becomes clear, a perfect example of a minting anomaly that can turn an everyday coin into a numismatic masterpiece. Another fascinating and valuable error that might appear on a 1968 dime is a repunched mint mark, known as an RPM. During this era, mint marks were still hand-punched onto the dies, meaning that if the mark was applied slightly off and then repositioned, it could leave a visible trace of a second, faint impression. Some 1968D and 1968S dimes display these subtle repunchings, where a small shadow or doubling of the mint mark can be seen. These might look like minor quirks, but in the coin world, such details make all the difference. Each repunched mint mark tells a story of the human element behind the minting process, the tiny imperfections that make each coin unique. And then there are off-metal strikes, one of the rarest and most valuable types of minting mistakes imaginable. An off-metal error occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, or even another country's coin. For example, a dime could accidentally be struck on a copper penny planchet, or a silver blank left over from earlier minting years. Such an error results in a coin that's the wrong weight, color, or composition, and these anomalies are worth fortunes. A 1968 dime struck on a leftover silver planchet, for example, would stand out immediately because of its lighter color, distinctive sound, and slightly higher weight. The chance of such an event happening is extremely small, but when it does, it creates a true treasure. The $203 million valuation of this 1968 Liberty dime also takes into account its incredible condition. In the world of coins, condition is everything. Coins that are crisp, sharp, and lustrous, meaning they've never been circulated or handled roughly, are graded as mint state, or MS. The scale goes from 60 to 70, with MS 70 representing absolute perfection, a flawless coin with no blemishes even under magnification. If the 1968 Liberty dime in question achieved such a grade, and it also carried a rare doubling or off-metal strike, it would indeed be a once-in-history specimen worth hundreds of millions. Another type of error that has fascinated collectors is the die break or die crack. Over time, the dies used to strike coins develop stress fractures from repeated use. When that happens, small raised lines or blobs appear on the coin's surface, unique patterns that can make each coin one of a kind. Some 1968 dimes exhibit these die breaks, particularly near the rim or along Roosevelt's neck. These imperfections give the coin character and rarity, and in combination with other major errors, they can dramatically increase its worth. There's also a mysterious category known as transitional errors. These occur when coins are struck using materials or designs from different years by mistake. For example, after the change from silver to clad coinage in 1965, there were reports of dimes mistakenly struck on leftover silver blanks in later years. A 1968 silver dime would be such a transitional error, something that technically shouldn't exist but somehow does. These coins are exceedingly rare, and collectors pay astronomical sums for them. The story of the 1968 Liberty dime is not just about its errors, it's also about timing, history, and human imperfection. In 1968, the mint was dealing with modernization, increased production, and new materials. Machines were running constantly, dies were replaced and re-engraved at high speed, and human oversight was often the only line of defense against mistakes. Amid that chaos, a single misaligned die, a leftover blank, or a slight hand punch misstep could create a masterpiece, and that's likely how the legendary 1968 dime came into existence. Over the decades, stories of this coin have circulated among collectors. Some believe it was discovered in a roll of dimes bought from a bank, while others think it was part of a private collection passed down through generations. Regardless of where it came from, its journey from a simple coin to a $203 million treasure is a testament to how history, chance, and craftsmanship can come together to create something extraordinary. Collectors are drawn to this coin not only for its rarity, but also for its symbolism.